priorities that we'll.
And good morning and welcome to the WSJM Morning Show video live stream. I'm Ken Lundberg, and my special guest this morning is Lincoln Charter Township Clerk Mike Brown. Did I get that right?
Yep. Thanks, Ken, for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning and welcome. Thank you. And I appreciate that you're a morning person. I like that.
Oh, yeah. I've been a morning person since I was milking cows when I was 14.
When you say morning person, what time does your body clock wake you up?
Usually about 5:30.
Okay.
And 5:30 a.m. And in my long state police career, it was a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah. I can't wait to dive into your background and your career. Just to introduce yourself to people, where are you from? What's your origin story? Start from when you were born.
Okay, that goes back a couple of years, but I grew up by between Rockford and Belding, northeast of Grand Rapids in the country there.
Okay.
Started out in the city of Grand Rapids. Folks, parents moved to the country. Mom, dad, 4 kids, and so I've been a country boy since I've been about 10 years old.
What kind of cows do you have on the farm?
So we had some beef cows, some pigs, chickens, and I milked cows at the neighbor's farm who had about 100, 120 head back then. So that's a small farm today, but it was a decent-sized dairy farm. And so I grew up doing all that country work and on apple orchards and dairy farms, and so it was great upbringing. And from there, I sailed off to the Marine Corps.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
How long were you in the Marines?
I was in the Marines in the infantry for 4 years, went in on my 18th birthday and got out on my 22nd.
Wow. Where'd you go?
I was out to Camp Pendleton, California in the infantry. Did a couple tours overseas, Okinawa, mainland Japan, the Philippines, an island in the Indian Ocean, Diego Garcia, on some Navy ships. So just traveled the world as a young guy.
How fun would that have been?
It was interesting. Tough work, but you look back on the misery. So it was fun. Great friends from that time frame too.
Yeah. Wow. And then you started your career here. Did you go right into the Michigan State Police?
Well, I came back because my father was ill.
Okay. Sorry.
And then and I was actually going to go back to California, and my uncle's neighbor was a state police recruiter. I was taking a few college classes at the time. He said, "Hey, put your application in," and there I landed. Ended up getting offered a spot in the State Police Academy when I was 22 and a half, and my first duty station was down here in St. Joseph.
Wow. Okay. So you know the area well.
So I've been living and working down here since about 1988.
Okay.
And various assignments around the state, but I've spent a lot of time here in Southwest Michigan.
Having been at Camp Pendleton, did you ever think about joining CHIPS out there, the California Highway Patrol?
I've seen them driving around out there, but no, I'd rather be in a regular patrol car.
I saw the real fake CHIPS when I was a kid growing up. I grew up out on the West Coast in Washington State, and my parents, we didn't take airlines. We drove all over the place. And so we had to go see their parents in Southern California, middle and Southern California. And it was like one of the highlights of my youth, driving by a movie set on the actual highway where they were filming CHIPS, that old show. I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah, you'd see them riding around. So that was interesting. I had never seen motorcycle units before until I was out in California. But I think the best police job in California that I noticed was Huntington Beach.
Okay. Oh, I want to ask about that. All right. We'll be back in just a moment. I've got to get some news in. We're talking with Mike Brown. He's the clerk right now of Lincoln Charter Township and former Michigan State Police. And last week he was in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration of festivities. So we'll talk about those stories and more coming up in just a moment right here on WSJM.
Wage garnishments and sleepless nights. Tax Relief Helpers can help you or your business settle your tax debt quickly and affordably. Call the Tax Relief Helpers hotline at 800-885-0622. That's 800-885-0622. Start your relief today.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's 7:05 on Tuesday, January 28th. Thank you for joining the video live stream right now on YouTube and Facebook. We have that live stream going right now. It's our uninterrupted video opportunity for you to see everything we do from 7 to 8 o'clock. And this morning we have a special guest in studio, Mike Brown. He's the Lincoln Charter Township Clerk. He's our special guest this morning. He's been around the area for a very long time. And in fact, he left the area last week for a special event in Washington, D.C. You went to the inauguration. Yes,
I was, excuse me, a privilege to get some tickets from the Michigan Trump campaign directors and a guy I know in Washington, D.C. for all my work for the Trump campaign. Yeah. So I had some great tickets starting out. Obviously, there was some changes in the weather and the inauguration.
Yeah.
But it was kind of pandemonium out in Washington, D.C. with all the security.
I bet.
And with the changing events. But we did get to see some really cool events, and so we can talk about those.
Yeah, we'll talk about all that in just a moment. And I mean, the pomp and circumstance is one thing, but to see it off TV, to see it in person, you get to see everything from the stanchions to the celebrities and everything in between. Must have been pretty cool.
Well, when you're out there, you can really, I've been to Washington, D.C. a couple of times, but not like an inauguration time frame. But the logistics that the federal government, the inauguration committee has to go through for all these events and the security, it was kind of at a new level with the security. And one day we were up by the White House and they had most of the roads closed down because there was all the caravans of cabinet members coming in and senators. And it was
see any moving trucks? When you were at the White House,
you could not get that close to the White House to see anything. It was so fenced off.
Yeah. Okay.
Usually you can get some pictures of the front of it.
Yeah.
And
not that time.
We tried to. We couldn't really get close to it.
No kidding. Had that even that closed off. Okay. We'll talk about that and more. It's coming up right here on the WSJM Morning Show. We'll have that interview with Mike Brown coming up in just a moment. Forecast for today. We're looking at 32 degrees outside right now. We're supposed to get up to somewhere around 38 or 40 degrees today. So it's going to be a gorgeous day. Partly sunny skies. Southwest winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Still going to deal with some gusts up to 30 miles per hour. So still a windy day. Tonight's forecast, mostly clear, low around 28, west winds 15 to 25 miles per hour. And then Wednesday, partly sunny, a 20% chance of snow tomorrow, a high around 35. So we'll see if we get any snow. Maybe it'll be early. Northwest winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. The extended forecast Thursday, it's going to be partly sunny, a chance of rain in the evening, but the high on Thursday is going to be around 45 degrees. So it's going to be a sloppy mess. You're going to see the snow melt. 45 degrees for a high on Thursday. Friday, 38 degrees for a high. Saturday, the high is going to get back down to 32 degrees, and then Sunday, probably a high around 42. So it's going to moderate a little bit over the weekend. Some of the news that we're following in the WSJM newsroom this morning: the city of South Haven is getting serious about keeping people off of their piers that go out into Lake Michigan. City manager Kate Hosier tells us the city council a couple of years ago approved an ordinance establishing penalties for walking on the pier when it's closed. When the pier is covered in ice, like it was this past weekend, signs are put up telling people to stay away, and believe it or not, some people ignore that.
It depends on the weather and the conditions of the pier. If it's not safe to access, then that's when we close the piers.
Hosier says it should be pretty clear to anyone when the pier is closed, and that's why the fine for violating pier closures is pretty high.
It's a $1,000 fine if you enter the pier after it has been closed. And when we do close the pier, we send out a text message alert system, but we also, there are physical barriers on the pier as you enter it that say whether or not the pier is closed. There are people, I'm sure, can just jump on the pier from the sides, but we also have signs saying, please enter the pier from the proper entry point.
However, Hosier notes it's also dangerous to walk out on the shelf ice, which is about the only way to reach the pier without having to go through a barrier. She advises everyone to follow the signs posted at the pier and to sign up for automatic alerts from the city. Again, if you're caught on the pier when it's closed, $1,000 fine. I mean, that makes sense for public safety, right?
Well, it's when they shut that down, it's very dangerous. With the wind's coming up, wind and waves, 8-foot waves coming over the pier. So
man,
it's a recipe for disaster.
Totally. And especially when it freezes over, then you have the pockets of ice, you fall off, people can't see you through the pier, you're done. Hypothermia, 2 seconds. All right, well, maybe not 2 seconds, but you know. Other news that we're following this morning: the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber has announced the nominees for next month's annual Business Recognition Awards. The Chamber's Sarah Spoonholtz tells us the awards are held to honor businesses, individuals, and nonprofits that have been making a difference in Southwest Michigan.
so many of our businesses, they're so incredibly excited and honored when they do get a nomination, because it means that some of the things that they have been doing and things that they have been going through, especially in recent history, are positive things, and they have been impacting people, and their staff have been doing an amazing job. So they just are so thankful that we get to honor them.
There are several categories of awards. They include Best New Business, Economic Impact, Small Business, and Community Placemaking. That's not even to mention the annual Pat Moody Award, which recognizes Moody-like devotion to business success and community service. Now, Spoonholt says the award winners will be decided by those who attend the breakfast and the ceremony. The chamber used to select the winners in advance, but they changed that to what they call a more democratic process of letting attendees vote in person. They changed that about 3 years ago. She says that's really ramped up anticipation.
We got some feedback one year that was like, we love that you do this and we're so happy to be recognized, but we felt like walking into this room that we already knew we weren't going to win.
Now, no one knows who's going to win until the votes are counted. We have a full list of nominees at our website, WSJM.com. Spoonholt says more than 630 people attended the business recognition breakfast and award ceremony last year, and they're on track to beat that this year. And finally, the Southwest Michigan Symphony Orchestra has already raised more than $150,000 after it announced its Save Our Symphony campaign last November. The SMSO launched the campaign in response to what it calls a perfect storm of key personnel and board members retiring and a fundraising slowdown in 2024. SMSO President Jessica Ishmael tells us they've been relying on reserves to get by.
We were looking at a potential early closure within the season if we could not cover the deficit that we were looking at for the current season, let alone making it into our 75th season for 25-26.
Ishmael says a lot of relationships had to be reestablished for the SMO to get back on track, something it's continuing to work on. She says the fact that it's met its campaign fundraising goal so quickly is a testament to the organization's role in the community.
The quick community response, the dialogue that opened up was just unbelievably encouraging. It really heartened us. And so we met it, I think, a month and a half tops.
Ishmael says the SMSO is now working to live within its means in a post-COVID environment. She also says the Southwest Michigan Symphony Orchestra is now back on solid financial ground, although it needs to continue cultivating donor relationships to remain strong into the future. That's a look at some of the news that we're following in the WSJM newsroom this morning. It's 7:13. I'm Ken Lundberg. My special guest this morning is Mike Brown. He's Lincoln Charter Township's clerk, and also he went to Washington, D.C. last week to see all the cool inaugural activities. So we'll talk with him. We'll start that interview right now on the video live stream right here on WSJM. Just go over to Facebook or YouTube to check it out, and we'll be back here on the air in a couple of minutes. It's WSJM.
Sports.
All right, back on the video live stream. What do you think? Is this good? How are we doing?
Yeah, it's great. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So you're not a coffee drinker.
No.
I will not hold that against you. Is it from years of bad coffee at Michigan State Police?
No, I've never been a coffee drinker, even in the Marine Corps and the State Police.
Nothing like that.
First story about drinking a sugary drink. Close to home, because I usually have one fountain pop a day. Yeah, so
wow,
I'll have to keep that under advisement.
You know what?
Yeah.
I used to do the same thing, and for many years I didn't have any soda, and then I went back. I fell off the wagon, and I was drinking Diet Mountain Dew every day. And I know it's not sugary, but the dietary stuff that they put in, it messes with you anyway, because it makes your body prepare for sugar, and then it releases stuff, and it's like, oh, then it doesn't get sugar, and then you want more sugar. And anyway, long story short, lemon water. Try lemon water.
Yeah, I have to try. I've survived this far.
He's not budging. I want my fountain drink, and I want it right. What do you? So fountain drink. What do you drink?
I usually get like a Mountain Dew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
there you go.
But, that goes back to my narcotics days, because I worked so many late hours. Okay. And Taco Bell was the only thing open. So
when he says narcotics days, he's talking about busting the bad guys. Yeah. Okay.
So there was a lot of late night tacos and Mountain Dew to keep rolling to 2-3 a.m.
That's a recipe for success right there. All right, we're going to come back and start this interview on the radio and on the video live stream. Thanks for tuning in. I see a good morning from Bill already, and Bill's talking about watch for big snow drifts this morning. What are you talking about, Bill? All right, we'll come right back in just a moment.
I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
Well, the temperature, I mean, by definition, it's freezing outside, but it's only 32 degrees. I mean, it feels good. Feels good to have temperatures back up in the double digits.
It does feel good. It was when I was up in Washington, D.C., it was about 20 with a very stiff breeze. And we were going to the Liberty Ball on Monday.
Yeah.
And there was a huge security line to get in. I really felt bad for the ladies because they were in really nice
gowns and such,
and dresses and open-toed shoes. And
wow.
it was brutal navigating the security for the Liberty Ball.
So we're talking with Mike Brown. He is Lincoln Charter Township's clerk, newly elected last November. So congratulations on your win there.
Thank you.
We'd like to know a little bit more about that. But first, we dove in head first already. We've learned a little bit about your background. So you were born in,
let's say Belding.
Okay, Belding. So north of Grand Rapids.
Yep, northeast of Grand Rapids, out in the country.
And then you spent your formative years being raised on a farm. You went into the Marines, and then you joined the Michigan State Police.
Yeah, that was back in 1988. So I had a 36-year career, so I'm keeping my youth and vigor. But that was about 40 years of putting a gun belt on, from the Marine Corps to the State Police. But it was super rewarding, had a lot of interesting assignments, and probably one of the most enjoyable ones I had. Two things I really liked. I really liked being out on the interstates with the guys and the gals in the worst of the blizzards here in Southwest Michigan.
You enjoyed being out there. Why did you enjoy being out in the blizzard?
I love the outdoors. I like the challenge.
Yeah.
In the men and women that you asked to do that work, they really appreciated the leaders. I was one of the few, maybe the only one, that liked to be out there. And but to see the work they do during the worst of the weather along the 94 corridor was something I always enjoyed. And the second one was I ran a narcotics team out of South Haven across Southwest Michigan for over 4 years. And I didn't know if I was going to be good at that, but I really had a knack of matching wits with drug dealers.
Yeah.
So I really liked that assignment.
Tell us a little bit open our eyes a little bit, because you say I ran a narcotics operation, a team, what do you call it? Task force?
Right.
Task force out of South Haven. People think South Haven, they think tourism. They think, sleepy little beautiful town.
Right.
But not so much.
Well, South Haven was the base of the operations, but we covered Berrien County, Van Buren County, and Cass County.
Okay.
But it's amazing how, like, some of these rural areas, there'll be like the headquarters or a base of like a major narcotics organization, because the towns could be a little sleepier.
Yeah.
Over that time period, we busted many national narcotics rings. That's when marijuana was illegal also. So I remember one horse farm in Pawpaw. I got a big picture of it.
Yeah.
Where there was $600,000 in cash laying there.
Oh my goodness.
And 1,000 pounds of marijuana under the hay. And then the safety deposit boxes had another $500,000 in them.
Oh my
and
gosh.
This was like a regional headquarters, but during that time, methamphetamine was really blowing up with the meth labs around here. So I've been at about 100 of those over the years. And so it was a really interesting time and had a great crew doing that work, but it was very demanding work because you'd start the day, and I was married with 3 kids at the time. And so my wife stayed home with the kids because my schedule was super
probably
erratic.
all over the place. Yeah.
I remember calling her from Muskegon one night. I was sleeping in my van after a drug case took us to Muskegon.
Oh, geez.
And I call her like 2 a.m. Yep, I'm alive. I'm up in Muskegon sleeping in my van. I need a couple hours sleep. I'll drive home.
Wow. Compare then to now. Has the drug situation improved here? How has it changed? Let me ask that.
Well, the style of drugs or the type of drugs is radically changed. So back when I was on the streets doing that, it was primarily opioids like Oxycontin pills.
Okay.
Marijuana was big, and cocaine. So that has kind of flipped nowadays to imported methamphetamine from Mexico.
Yep.
Cocaine, heroin, fentanyl. So I just retired a few months ago, and that's what all the guys and gals are dealing with now is fentanyl, and then pills that you think are just a normal prescription pill, but they're laced with other toxic fentanyl and things like that are really poisoning people. So that's the trend nowadays.
Yeah. And the activity here in Southwest Michigan, do you attribute it to kind of being a central point between a couple of big metros?
Well, there's a demand for narcotics, and people are going to fill that. And Kalamazoo's a big hub for methamphetamine, things like that. But it's been out there, and I know we have great people locally trying to at least minimize the very damaging effects of those narcotics.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Well, we thank you for that. We appreciate the service that you gave during Michigan State Police. We're talking with Mike Brown, who's now Lincoln Charter Township Clerk, and we'll get to talk a little bit about that. I want to explore more of the Michigan State Police piece as well. So by the time that you left Michigan State Police, a couple of things we think about are obviously crime in the area. We also think about how is it to recruit new people to MSP? Is it getting easier? Have we seen some of the pressure release from like COVID or other political things that came through?
Well, I was very pleased to command a lot of units around here, and I live in Lincoln Township, obviously, but I worked a lot with the chief of Benton Harbor, Chief McGinnis, and the chief of Benton Township on violent crime initiatives, and that was just something I really enjoyed, trying to keep the people safe in the region. But we always had volunteers for those challenging assignments to keep the people safe in the Benton Harbor region. But recruiting's tough in public safety. Some of it's political. You see different cases around the nation or the state where a lot of police officers are being charged, which a lot of them think unjustly.
Yeah.
So that's a factor in people's thinking about joining a police department, because it's one of the few jobs you can't even have one mistake, or else you're in a very bad situation, unlike a lot of other careers. But thankfully, we still have men and women that enjoy that challenge, and I'd encourage that career today, because I had a great career. But on the recruiting side, you have to spend a lot more time doing it. So, but you can still find great people.
Excellent. So when you're not in your official capacity as Lincoln Township Clerk, you get involved in politics from time to time. So you know some people.
So yes, I've been dabbling in Republican politics for quite a while. I was a county commissioner down here. I don't know if you knew that, Ken.
Okay.
When I was 28.
When you were 28 years old? Wow, you were young.
I represented Royalton and St. Joe Township. For a couple of terms, and then I took an assignment in Lansing. So I've been around Republican politics for a little bit.
Okay.
So
so you've stayed in connection with some of those political operatives in the Trump campaign, and somehow you hooked up with tickets to the inauguration. Tell us about that.
Yes, a good friend of mine, David Yardley from St. Joe. He was working for the Trump campaign.
Okay.
And their hub was out of Kalamazoo. So I was retiring, so I had a little bit of time on my hands, and I've been a Trump supporter since President Trump supporter since 2015.
Okay.
And so I had a bunch of time to contribute. So I helped all across Southwest Michigan with the Trump Force 47 training, some logistics with that. I did all the big billboards around Southwest Michigan.
Force 47.
Yeah, that was kind of the on the ground campaign to turn out voters.
Got it. Okay.
So that's what it was called.
The Get Out the Vote. Yep.
Yeah, the Get Out the Vote effort. And then personally delivered about 3,000 yard signs around Southwest Michigan to different groups and stuff. So anyway, I did that kind of work. It was my privilege to do it.
Okay. And so that way you stayed connected with the campaign, you worked for the campaign, you helped them out. And part of the reward is, well, your candidate got elected. So you decided, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. How'd you get those tickets?
So the Michigan director of the Trump campaign, and a guy I know in Washington, D.C., he used to work in Michigan. So they emailed me a couple weeks ago, said, "Hey, Captain Mike, we got 2 tickets for you for the swearing in, the Liberty Ball, and another event." And some of those got upended a little bit with the weather.
Yeah.
But so originally I had tickets for the swearing in right by Grant Park. So only like 100
Wow.
rows off the dais there.
Wow.
So I was really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But obviously that got changed, whether it was the weather or some security concerns.
So you're talking
like
about
that.
the west front of the U.S. Capitol.
Yes.
You had 100 rows back. So if you think about the U.S. Capitol, it's pretty big, and so it's got a lot. It's got a lot of room. But they build this whole special stage, risers and everything else for all the dignitaries, everybody that's going to attend the swearing in of the president of the United States. You've got former presidents up there. You've got cabinet members. You've got the justices of the United States Supreme Court, members of Congress all over the place. The members of the Congress usually get same seats that it sounds like you got. So that was a pretty cool setup. And then the weather didn't agree. Sorry about that.
No, we went up there on Sunday to the Capitol. I had picked up a guy that I deer hunt with.
Okay.
He's got a big farm down in Illinois.
Yeah.
And he had never been to the Capitol.
Okay.
So I invited him.
Oh, man.
And so he was super stoked. And we went to the Capitol. You could see everything was laid out.
Yeah.
And they literally had, I think they set out in D.C. 30 miles of fencing around it.
Man, I believe it.
But we were looking forward to that. But we saw the sights in D.C. And then a guy from Michigan who's running for my GOP chair, Scott Greenlee, hosted an event right by the Capital One Center on Monday for the inauguration. So we went to that.
Okay.
Super patriotic. Made the best of that.
Yeah.
So everyone was chanting USA and Trump and fight. It was really super patriotic.
Did you get a chance to you said you took in some of the sites. You get a chance to go inside the Capitol?
No, you could get pretty close to it, but you couldn't go in.
Okay.
So
even after the inauguration?
No, we weren't up there.
Okay.
It was too much pandemonium. So Monday in the inauguration, we were down by the Capital One Center because the president was coming there.
Yeah.
And what happened was they canceled the main inauguration and they had a 20,000 person event at the Capital One Center.
Yeah. The Capital One Center is basically their big arena where they hold concerts. And I don't know, maybe the basketball team plays there still.
The Wizards play there.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but people were lined up for miles to get in there because that was going to be their only chance to see President Trump.
Wow.
So they were lined up.
Did they line you up out in the cold?
Yes. People were out there for hours.
Oh, man.
Like from 6 a.m. or the night before to make sure they could get in. So we went to a different event because we had tickets to the Liberty Ball that night.
Okay.
Where President Trump was showing up.
So the Liberty Ball, was that affiliated with any particular state? Or was that was just one of the presidential balls.
Presidential balls.
Okay, that's fancy.
So
did you wear a tuxedo?
I actually stopped at a Men's Warehouse to get a couple bow ties in Kokomo, Indiana.
On your way there?
on my way to pick up my friend Tom.
Wow.
So we had some red bow ties and then some red ties for the events. Nice blue suit. So yeah, we were looking pretty good.
Do you know how to tie a bow tie?
This was just a
clip-on
one.
Yeah.
So
I don't blame you.
So no, I can't pull off the bow tie. Some people can. I can't really.
I think I don't know how anyone ties a bow tie. I've tried a million times, and I've tied regular ties like a lot daily in the dark. It's no problem. Bow tie, no, absolutely not.
So the one thing about the Liberty Ball, it was way bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Where was it held? Do you recall?
It was at the Walter Washington Convention Center, which was gigantic.
Yeah.
So, and there was 3 balls going on. The armed services ball. I think I got the name wrong, but there was one geared towards the armed services, then the Liberty Ball, then another ball. I thought there'd be 4,000 people there because it was ticketed only with a ticket with a chip on it. And but when we got there, we got in the wrong line to get in. Someone told us to go there to get in. So we waited there 45 minutes.
Oh, no.
Then we had to go outside, and it took us an hour and a half in the cold to snake our way through security to get in.
Oh, no.
But it was worth every minute.
Yeah.
We got in there about 8 o'clock, and we left about 1 a.m.
Wow. And did you get an opportunity to see the president?
Yes, he arrived So he was hitting three different balls.
Okay.
Like the sanctioned inaugural committee balls.
Yeah.
Where he was kind of guaranteed to show up.
Yes.
So he arrived, I think, about 11:45 p.m.
Oh my goodness.
On the stage, danced to a couple songs with his beautiful wife Melania.
Yeah.
And his children were there. So they all just did a couple of dances, and we were about halfway back. So I got some good video of it and some pictures.
Oh, cool.
But and then he spoke for a little bit, and that was the only time a lot of people could see the president. I've seen him at a couple of events in Grand Rapids. I was privileged to give the Pledge of Allegiance at one of his events.
Wow.
So then I was sitting like 50, 30 feet away from the president. So I've seen him a few times before over the years, but that was the only time a lot of people could see the president. So the crowd was very, very, very excited.
Yeah. All right. We're talking with Mike Brown. He is Lincoln Charter Township's clerk, and he also was in Washington, D.C. last week, and he's had a great career as Michigan State Police. So we'll continue our conversation with him in just a moment. We've got to get to some news here. We'll do financial news with Bloomberg. We'll come back with ABC News, and then look at our local news that we're covering, and that's all coming up right here on WSJM. Stay tuned.
Have you been thinking
that we're back on the video live stream? That you describe it very well, and I mean all the way down to the snaking lines, and then somebody telling you to get into that line, and then you find out you're in the wrong line.
Yeah, that wasted about an hour's time, and not having a couple drinks in the fall.
so as you're in the line, I mean, I'm sure you're bundled up. Everyone's making fun of the cold or whatever, or being out in the cold. Still a pretty good atmosphere out there.
Yes, everyone just wanted to be in the Liberty Ball, and because they knew the president was going to show up, and if you like country music, which I listen to country music,
okay.
Jason Aldean played for about an hour.
Wow!
And so
you got to hear it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he come on about 9. He played past 10.
Yeah.
And then the president showed up about 11:45 and danced a couple songs, and then he talked.
How's he as a dancer?
I really don't want to judge the president's dancing, but
fair enough.
He looked pretty good in his talks, and Melania always looks great. So
yeah, that's fun. That's fun. So what is safe to say it's what you expected it was going to be?
The Liberty Ball was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be 3,000 to 5,000 people because it was really hard to get tickets to it.
Yeah.
And we met a lot of people from around the nation, and they were like, "Man, how'd you get tickets to the Liberty Ball?"
Yeah.
And I said, "You got to put in the work."
Did you meet a lot of people from, see anyone you knew from Michigan out there?
So the Michigan State Society had an event Saturday night at the Historical Museum.
Okay.
So that was kind of Michigan centric, or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Ken.
Okay.
So I knew a bunch of people there from around Michigan politics. State Senator Nesbitt was there. All the Republican congressmen and women from Michigan were there. Other people I knew from around the state. So
nice.
I knew a lot of people there.
Good to see friendly faces. That's good. That's good. Did you get a chance to go by any of the congressional buildings, say hi to any of our members of Congress?
No, I saw most of them Monday night.
Okay.
And then or Saturday night. I'm sorry. So I saw most of them Saturday. And I picked up a friend of mine from Illinois by Indianapolis, and he had never been to Washington, D.C., so we did some of the typical Washington, D.C. stuff for him.
Yeah.
Went to the Supreme Court.
Nice.
Tried to get into the Capitol, but we wanted to check out the Capitol, and then we hit the Lincoln Memorial and some other things.
Did you ever have to flash your retired MSP badge to help you get through?
No, that stays pretty close to the vest. But
all right, we'll continue this conversation in just a moment. It's 7:34. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Operations to a domestic company, and he's now encouraging more bidders to get involved. And stock futures are moving higher on this Tuesday morning. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
7:35. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning. My friend this morning is Mike Brown. He's here from Lincoln. Where do you live? You live in Stevensville? Where do you live?
right off Ponderosa Drive, kind of by the fire station library area.
Okay.
In a subdivision there. And my wife grew up in Stevensville, so she's a local girl.
Okay.
And then I have a small hobby farm on Washington. That's where I spend most of my time.
Oh, what are you doing out there?
I'm actually just growing corn and squirrel corn. And
Squirrel corn.
I do some deer hunting out there.
Oh,
it's got a
nice.
pond, and
so it might be deer corn.
Yes, I do have a lot of deer out there. I like nature, so
okay.
I have some property there.
You have a barn?
No, I don't have a barn yet.
You have plans for a barn? I have plans for a barn.
I probably shouldn't say.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Not until Lincoln Charter Township approves it. Oh, that's great. No, we're talking with Mike Brown. He is the clerk at Lincoln Charter Township. We'll talk with him about his role. He's been in the role since he was elected there in November of 2024. So we'll have a little bit more on that and some other things that we'll be talking about news-wise as well. Maybe we can pry another story out of him about Michigan State Police. Let's see. We've got our news coming up from WSJM's newsroom in just a moment. After this from ABC.
ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. There's uncertainty around almost every federal aid program after the White House Budget Office in a memo ordered federal agencies to stop any financial assistance spending if they suspect that it conflicts with President Trump's executive orders. Medicare and Social Security are exempt from the memo, but ABC Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl says
the directive is not specific, but it's clearly far-reaching. It says, quote, this memorandum requires federal agencies to identify and review all federal financial assistance programs and supporting activities consistent with the president's policies and requirements.
Immigration arrests continue to increase. ICE says nearly 1,200 people were arrested yesterday. Chipmaker NVIDIA suffered the largest single-day loss in stock market history, nearly $600 billion Monday on news of a Chinese company's AI product. Meanwhile, Boeing says it lost almost $4 billion in the fourth quarter. This is ABC News.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
7:37 is the time. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning and welcome to Tuesday, January 28th. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll get back to our interview with Mike Brown in just a moment. He's the clerk at Lincoln Charter Township, and also he was out in Washington, D.C. for the inaugural activities last week. Got to see the president, dance. Will not tell us how the president danced, but that's all right. That's all right. No judgment. It's a no judgment zone. I mean, if you're president of the United States, I guess you can dance however you want.
Pretty much. But it was interesting. They all, the music changed and the color guard come out, and then the dance and music come on, and that's when they appeared.
Security pretty heavy.
It was very heavy. By the White House, they had cement barricades lining the roadways where the caravans were, motorcades were coming in and out. So we saw a couple of those and couldn't tell who was in them, but they were loaded up with very heavy security.
Did you see the gunship trucks that they have? Usually, so when the president moves around Washington, D.C., if he's moving by a vehicle rather than Marine One, the helicopter, there's like 17 or 20 vehicles in that motorcade. And some of them are ambulances, some of them are gunships, basically. And they got and then they've got decoys and all kinds of fun stuff in there.
Yeah, I've been privileged to be involved in some of those in Michigan over the years in my state police career. And whenever the president moves, obviously it's heightened security. But with last year's two assassination attempts, it's really to the next level now for the security of the country's leaders.
Yeah. And I mean, you think back to that period in time, and I don't care your politics, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, whatever. But if there's an attempt on a candidate for a president of the United States office, and the bullet touches them, that just seems like an incredible failure of security. And so I can imagine that they know they are on task not only to beef up what they had before, but to take a look at what's out there now and prepare for it.
It just seemed like
I don't know. I'm just from the outside observing.
Yeah, obviously that incident in Pennsylvania was many security
a low
failures,
spot. Yeah,
but that's a dark time for the Secret Service.
Yeah,
but I think they're ramped up pretty hard right now from what I saw in Washington D.C.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. All right, some of the news that we're following in the WSJM newsroom. Speaking of shootings, just across the border in Elkhart, Indiana, police say 3 people are dead, including the suspect, and 2 police officers were injured after a shooting last night inside of a Martin's supermarket on East Jackson Boulevard. That's down in Elkhart, Indiana. We'll tell you more about that and at 8 o'clock this morning. Also, another story that we got official word on yesterday, but we saw some of the smoke over the weekend. No one is hurt, but a home is a total loss after a fire in St. Joseph on Sunday night. The St. Joseph Department of Public Safety saying firefighters were dispatched to a home at 1501 South State Street about 10:20 p.m. Sunday night on reports of flames being visible from the windows. Not a good sign. They called everybody in. The blaze took one house and it tried to damage another one. They were able to limit the damage on the second home. So we'll tell you more about that story coming up at 8 o'clock. And Benton Harbor City commissioners are being asked whether or not they want to put fluoride back in the city's water supply. There's some hesitation. They tabled the motion, so they're not going to do it right now, but they're thinking about it. So we'll tell you more about those stories. That's coming up at 8 o'clock right here on WSJM. We've got more news coming up. Let's take a look at sports right after a look at state news.
The Michigan News Network.
Yeah, I was shocked to see the news in the evening and overnight of what happened down at Martin's. So I don't know if you heard much of that story, but basically police got a call at 5:30 yesterday afternoon of reports of shots being fired at the Martins. They got there. There were 2 people already dead. They confronted the suspect outside. They engaged in a firefight there. 2 officers wounded, suspect killed. So as a veteran of the Michigan State Police, when you get a call, any call where there's something happening that shouldn't be, what goes through your mind?
Well, there's a lot of training that is involved in police work. So most of the time, police work is a lot of routine business interrupted by 10 seconds of high intensity, whether it's traffic crashes or people being shot or someone severely injured. So, but thankfully we have some good training in on those type of situations. You fall back on your training if someone's shot or you're going to a gunfight, things like that.
Yeah.
But obviously we have way too much gun violence in America. In regionally. So I spent a lot of time trying to reduce gun violence in Benton Harbor, Benton Township. We made some pretty good, great progress over the years in the Benton Harbor region.
What is key, in your opinion, in the fight to reduce gun violence?
Well, first of all, it's individuals carrying illegal guns. So whether they're stolen or they're felon in possession anymore. So that's the first step. And obviously, disputes shouldn't be settled with gunfire.
Yeah.
It's just, you look back 30, 40 years, it wasn't how America operated.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking with Mike Brown. He is the Lincoln Charter Township clerk, and we're going to talk to him about his role as clerk in a couple of minutes. So you said you went to some of the normal tourist places in Washington, D.C. What are the normal tourist places?
Well, everyone wants to hit the museum. So we were at the Natural History Museum.
Okay, Smithsonian. You went and saw dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Capitol, Supreme Court buildings, just the architecture if you haven't been to D.C. And
it's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And you look at the craftsmanship of when those buildings were built. Some are really ugly. When you go to some of the federal buildings, they're really ugly.
They're like Soviet era concrete.
But then you go to the Lincoln Memorial or the Capitol Rotunda and things like that. The artistry is amazing. So the person I brought, he had never been to DC beyond landing at the airport.
Yeah.
So we got a ton of pictures with him.
That's cool.
For his family. And
where'd you fly into?
We actually drove.
Oh, you drove. Okay.
Because I was picking up my friend Tom, and he's from Southwest Illinois.
Okay.
So I looked where we could converge a little bit, and it was Greenfield, Indiana. So I called the police department down there, got us a parking spot, so his vehicle was going to be good for a few days. And then we drove across. So it was 9 hours from when I picked him up. We parked the truck in the basement of the hotel there.
Yeah.
And then just Ubered from there because the roads were shut down so much in DC.
Yeah.
Even Ubering, we had to get dropped off half a mile away.
I bet.
And then walk the rest.
Oh, what a pain.
So
So not only are you brave to go into a metro area where there's going to be a presidential inauguration, knowing that the traffic is going to be a mess, you're doing it when it's single-digit temperatures outside and there's snow coming.
It was pretty cold, but I brought a big Woolrich parka I've had for years, some hunting pack boots. I do a lot of hunting, so I had plenty of gear for whatever was going to happen. But I do have to say, Ken, when we went to the Liberty Ball, we were going to be outside a long time going through security. That's the first time I've worn long underwear under a suit. So
that must have been incredibly comfortable.
It was actually pretty decent.
All right. Okay. All right.
Well, that was a first.
Oh my goodness. All right. Hang on just a moment. I've got to let somebody in the door. We'll be right back with more from Mike Brown in just a moment.
And this is Tom Austin, and I'm here for you.
Advisory services offered by Capital Asset Advisory Services, LLC, a registered investment advisor.
Taking the fear out of your future. Austin Tax and Financial.
Hey, Michigan, let's go big. I'm Herman Moore, Lions All-Pro wide receiver, and I'm talking real big-time winning on the hottest slots and table games on one incredible app, Eagle Casino and Sports.
Sign up now and get up to $1,500. That's right. We'll match your deposit for up to $1,500, and you'll get 100 free spins.
Eagle Casino and Sports. Made in Michigan, made for Michigan.
Must be 21 or older and in Michigan to play.
The gateway to, well, anywhere is right next door. Literally any place you ever thought of going starts at South Bend International Airport. I don't think we can emphasize it enough.
Okay, we're back on the video live stream now, and I let another person into the studio. I love it when I can do that. Here, I've got my was the fancy camera in here when you were in here? Look at that.
It was just installed.
Okay, very good. Would you mind turning that TV off behind you on the very bottom? There's a button. Thank you so much. Kristen Box from St. Joseph Public Schools is here. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
We're just talking with Mike about his trip to Washington, D.C. We're going to talk about Lincoln Charter Township here in just a moment, and then we'll visit with you after our 8 o'clock news, talk about St. Joseph Public Schools and the Bear Den.
Sounds great.
Good. All right. All right. It's the WSJM morning show. We've got weather here happening in just a moment, and then we'll be back. We'll make this part of our Moody on the Market update. Is that good?
That's awesome. I do have a great story about Kristen's husband, too.
Oh, boy. All right. Excellent. We'll share that coming up in just a moment on WSJM.
Times. Clear skies tonight and still breezy. We drop down to 28. And tomorrow, partly sunny. We will see a small chance of a few flurries. High temperatures at 35. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
And good morning. It's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg, and we're getting back to the airwaves here. We're talking with Mike Brown. He is Lincoln Charter Township's clerk. So we'll talk with him in just a moment. And then also we have Kristen Box in the studio. So we'll be talking about St. Joseph Public Schools, get an update from the Bear Den. That's coming up after our 8 o'clock news. Good morning, Kristen. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great, Ken.
How are the roads?
Clear,
beautiful. Dry, beautiful. Warm. Temperature is gorgeous out there.
It's tropical today.
Kids are happy to be back in school.
I think they are.
All right.
Hard to admit that, but I do think they are.
7:49 is the time, and let's make this part of our Moody on the Market update, which is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And part of why we talk about Moody on the Market updates, we have business updates. We have life in Southwest Michigan and why we love it here. And we have interesting people you should know. And we think we did that this morning, a couple of those anyway, with Mike Brown. So thank you for joining us again and telling us about your background, your career with MSP, the Michigan State Police, your time at the inauguration in Washington, D.C. That sounds very cool. Any video of you dancing?
No, I
not that you know of.
No,
because I bet there are cameras.
There was not a whole lot of dancing. Jason Aldean was really good.
Yeah.
Then we were standing right in front of the Fox booth, so we saw some of the Fox News celebrities that were there.
Fun.
Jesse Waters. He would not come over for a picture though.
No,
Jesse wouldn't, but his sidekick Johnny, if you watch that show, he came over for a picture.
Okay,
and so we were kind of by the Fox News booth, and
that's fun.
But the one thing, the convention center was huge, but they had 2 bars in there that were 100 feet long each.
Okay,
and open on both sides, but the crowd, there was about 15,000 people there, but you had to get 2 drinks when you went up there because you didn't want to fight the line again.
Yeah, that makes sense. As we're talking about your roles, your many roles, one of them is as clerk of Lincoln Charter Township. You were just elected to that in November of last year.
Yeah, November 20th I started. So
how's it been?
It's been pretty busy there at the township. So they did a restructuring at the township. They have a new township manager, which happened in October.
Okay.
So the clerk and the treasurer, supervisor went down to part-time jobs.
Yep.
So, but the township's really busy. A lot of things going on in the township. So I've been in there a couple months now.
Okay.
So got 2 or 3 meetings done, learning the duties, messing around with the qualified voter file, finished my elections training. But there's a lot of moving parts to the township government there with 50 employees. They have $15 million budget, and I've lived in the township about 20 years. So it's
so you know a little bit about it. Yeah. What are you finding most interesting in your new role?
Well, there's a lot of details to that clerk's job when it deals with the budgets and the book balances that you don't, when you say township clerk or city clerk, you just think elections, right?
Yeah.
So that's a component of it, obviously during the election time periods, but there's a lot of work to do with the board minutes, the board meetings, the book balances. So there's a big budgetary component to the clerk's job by statute.
Yeah.
So, which was, it's kind of new.
I know you're only 2 months into it, but you're enjoying it so far?
Yeah, there's some great people there. I knew a few of them over my years.
Yep.
And the new township manager is a former lieutenant at the police department. So I've known him for a few years. But there's 3 new members of the board. The supervisor's new, I'm new, and there's a new trustee.
Okay.
So about almost half of the board is new.
Very nice. What do you, any public service announcements for Lincoln Charter Township you want us to?
Well, we're having that business roundtable February 5th with the Southwest Chamber, February 5th at 8:30. And we're really looking forward to the Lincoln Township Beach project, which is going to kick off probably in July. So with that DNR grant, which is about $400,000.
For those who are not familiar with it, tell us what that project is.
Well, there was a lot of erosion and over the years at Lincoln Township Beach, which is it's a really nice beach. It's out of the way a little bit, but we received a grant, $400,000. Township's matching 20-30% of that. So we're going to have totally new parking areas, restroom area, walkway down to the beach, things like that. So both the visitors and the residents.
ADA accessible as well for the beach. Okay.
That everyone can use. So
yeah.
But everything will kick off late summer this year.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, we're really excited that the library's back open in Lincoln.
Yeah. So, I can't wait to go in because I hear there's a coffee nook.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I'm a big reader, so I usually grab a half a dozen novels before deer camp, and but I'm a big reader, so I've used the library for a lot of years.
What are some interesting reads you've picked up lately?
The John Sanford novels I like.
Okay.
And there's a Virgil Flowers character in one set out of Minnesota, so I like those kind. Read some history.
All right.
Some Gabriel Allan, like espionage novels. That's kind of what I read.
You probably did some of the Tom Clancy stuff when those were out.
Yeah, he's got quite a collection.
You should, if you've not read Executive Orders by Tom Clancy yet, you should. It's intimidating on how thick it is, but it's a quick read. I mean, and it's really good, and it's set in Washington D.C. during an inauguration.
Okay. I'll have to check it out.
You might enjoy that. You might enjoy that if you've not already. Executive Orders. All right, it's 7:54. That's our WSJM Moody on the Market update. Moody on the Market update is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency. in St. Joseph and in Niles. We'll come back and conclude this interview in just a moment and get you up to date on the latest ABC world and national news and our local news from the WSJM newsroom. It's coming up next.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were in pain, and you held on to them just in case.
I do have a buzzer now. They've set so Kristen from St. Joseph Public Schools mentioned just a moment ago that there are so many buttons and stuff here, and now I have a button to buzz people into the building.
It's perfect.
The fact is that button's been here for like years, like decades, and just now somebody told me about it. So now it's my new best friend.
It's a time saver. You don't have to sprint down the hallway and make it back before the commercial.
But now you know why I have the security cameras on, so I can see who I'm letting in.
Helpful.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Very good.
Anyway, how are we doing? Anything else that we need to mention, Mike?
No, it's great to be here. Thanks for letting me cover a lot of topics. Can I tell one quick story?
I would love it.
Kristen's husband, Russ.
Let's do that.
So Russ retired from the state police too. I can say this now since I retired too.
Yeah.
So him and I, he worked at the headquarters, and he always worked holidays. He wrote a ton of tickets when people were going 100+ mile an hour on the highway during the holiday periods.
Yikes.
And so I'm riding with him one day. I'm the captain. He's a trooper. And I really liked Russ. And so this motorcycle passes us going really fast, right? So we pursue the motorcycle. And I look over, and Russ and I are both married, right?
Yeah.
And he's driving. I look at the speedometer on the Dodge Charger, and it says 140.
Oh, my gosh.
And he's driving with 3 fingers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Just
I've heard this
naturally,
story.
right?
Yeah.
And I look over at
Very
Russ.
confident.
I look over at Russ, just like I'm looking at Kristen. I said, "Hey, Russ, both of our wives would like it if you put both hands on the steering wheel."
Correct. Let's make it back.
And then he goes, "Okay."
Yeah, I've heard that story once or twice.
But
that is hilarious.
But yeah, it's something. But that's the kind of things that happen out there when you're in police work that you don't think nothing about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Was he at 9 and 3 when you told him?
After I mentioned that both of our wives would like it, he was.
Okay.
Thankfully.
Did you get the motorcycle?
No, it ramped off by the wineries by Coloma and took off on Friday Road going
too
fast.
Way too
I
fast.
can't, for some reason in my algorithm on some of my social media feeds, motorcycle chases come up. And I can't watch those because if you see how they end, most times it's not good.
No, but
it's not good.
Well, that's my story about Kristen's house.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing.
He had
that.
a great career, so I really liked Russ.
Thanks.
All right.
So, yeah,
back
thank you
with
much.
back with more in just a moment. We'll conclude the interview on the air here on WSJM. Just a moment.
The Pat Moody Studios. This is News Talk Sports 94.9. WSJM FM Benton Harbor, St. Joseph. Depend on us. The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
7:58. It's the WSJM Morning Show. If you're not watching the video live stream, you're missing out because we just had a story. You're only going to get it on the video live stream. You have to go back and watch the archive on YouTube or Facebook. But basically, there has to do with 140 miles an hour and 3 fingers. And that's all I'm going to put out there.
Yeah, you may want to check it out.
Yeah, just check it out. You can check out the video live stream at YouTube, Facebook. Just type in WSJM. In the studio right now, we've got Mike Brown. He's Lincoln Township's clerk, and then also Kristen Box, who's going to be visiting with us for a few minutes from St. Joseph Public Schools. That's coming up after news. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Well, thanks, Ken. I'm glad I could talk about my trip to D.C., a little state police business.
Yeah.
And appreciate all the men and women out there serving.
Absolutely.
In the military and the law enforcement and adding in a few things about what's going on in Lincoln Township. So thank you.
Yeah, anytime. I mean, the door is open, so please come on back anytime. We might invite you back just to tell some more police stories. That could be fun.
Yeah, I have a pretty
I'm sure you have a few.
Pretty deep bucket of those.
We appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Mike Brown. Again, if you missed any part of the interview, just go back to our video archive on WSJM, and it's right there. Facebook, YouTube, it's there. Forecast for today, partly sunny skies expected. We're going to get a high somewhere around 38, maybe 40 degrees if we're fortunate. Southwest winds gusting to 30 miles per hour. Tonight's forecast, mostly clear. a low around 28, west winds up to 25 miles per hour. And then Wednesday's forecast, we're looking at partly sunny skies tomorrow. Just a slim chance of snow. Who knows where, because our high is going to be around 35 degrees. So maybe we see some rain precipitation tomorrow. Northwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. More